Assalamu alaikum everyone. I'm Sania Gilani, your course instructor for the subject of Rise of the Novel 18th and 19th Century. And this is the Department of English, University of Southern Punjab. Today is our lecture number 5 and the topic we are discussing is Joseph Andrews as a picaresque novel. So, in today's lecture, we are going to explore Joseph Andrews by Henry Fielding, a novel we started our discussion on last time. How is this novel a picaresque novel? Our focus will not only be on the story itself, but on understanding the literary tradition it belongs to, the picaresque tradition. This is an exciting topic because it connects a classic 18th century English novel to a literary tradition that began centuries prior in Spain. To do this well, we will first define what a picaresque novel is. Look at some examples in English and Urdu literature and then analyze Joseph Andrews within this framework. We must first understand what a picaresque novel is, where it originated, and how it functions. Once we grasp that framework, we will examine how Fielding adopts, adapts, and even transforms the picaresque form for his convenience. By the end of this lecture, you should be able to define the term picaresque novel, identify its key features, recognize examples in different literature, and explain how Joseph Andrews by Henry Fielding fits into the mold of a picaresque novel and also how the author modifies this tradition. So, let's define what is a picaresque novel. The term picaresque has been derived from the Spanish word picaro, which means a rogue, a villain, or a wandering man, a man who has no place to belong to. Originally, a type of romance that dealt with rogues or villains was called picaresque. A picaresque novel was presented in an extravagant style as a series of adventures or misadventures, mostly on the highways, were experienced by the main character. Some novelists sent their heroes to the sea as well. With the development of the novel, it was no longer considered essential to take only a rogue or a villain as the central character, a regular hero, a regular main character with a regular backdrop who is gallant and chivalric and has an adventurous spirit and liberal in his outlook could also be a picaro. The story came to be equally acceptable in all its form. The picaresque form offered many advantages to the novelist. First, it did not require a regular, well organized, well rounded plot. Secondly, he got an opportunity to introduce a wide variety of events and characters. The hero is now in the countryside. Now he's on the highways. Now he's in London City confronting thieves, gossiping with other rogues, rescuing beautiful damsels, and falling in love sometimes. He's also fighting with other villains, getting arrested and being thrown into prison, getting robbed by the most innocent looking people, and held by those who look like scoundrels. These are just some examples of what you can find in a picaresque novel. The picaresque form offered enough scope to throw light on the life, culture, and morality of the age and to criticize the evils infesting that age. While the picaresque novel has many famous examples in literature, the most popular one is by Cervantes, and it was originally written in Spanish. And the story I'm talking about is Don Quixote. In English, you also have the example of Daniel Defoe's Robinson Crusoe, which follows the picaresque tradition. Later, Henry Fielding and Joseph Andrews and Tom Jones followed the same tradition. The traces of this tradition are found even in Charles Dickens and William Makepeace Thackeray's works. While writing Joseph Andrews, Fielding was considerably influenced by Don Quixote. In the early stages of his literary career, Fielding has been fascinated by Cervantes, and it has been his ambition to present to the readers the essential spirit of Quixote in an English form. In fact, he credited his performance and his work to Don Quixote. He said that the work was so good that he felt obliged to acknowledge it on the title page itself of his book, written in imitation of the manner of Cervantes. This inscription, though usually omitted from modern editions of the novel, is of cardinal importance in understanding Cervantes' influence on Fielding as well as the spirit and structure of the novel. So, we have looked at the basic concept and the historical awareness of the word. Let's look at the key features of picaresque novel. A typical picaresque novel includes a picaro, a protagonist of low-born character who survives by resourcefulness rather than wealth or title. It has an episodic structure. This narrative unfolds as the series of loosely linked adventures rather than a tightly woven plot. The journey is the main motif over here. The hero travels from place to place, meeting different people and social settings. The picaresque novel is usually satirical in its social commentary. The novel exposes hypocrisy, corruption, and folly in society. It also has elements of realism. It focuses on everyday life and ordinary people, not heroes or noble quests. A picaresque novel is less about inner psychological depth and more about social observation. It holds up a mirror to human behavior and society. Now, let's come back to Joseph Andrews. Joseph Andrews was first published in 1742. It began as a parody of Pamela, a serious book about virtue and chastity. Fielding wrote his novel in imitation of the manner of Cervantes, the author of Don Quixote. Just we mentioned him previously, making his debt to the picaresque tradition clear. However, the novel soon transcends parody and becomes its own rich social comedy, blending satire, adventure, and a character study into the English society of the time. Let's now look at how Joseph Andrews fits and sometimes twists the picaresque mold. The first element is the hero's journey. Joseph Andrews starts as a footman in Lady Booby's household, but his journey doesn't pick up until he sets off on the road from London to his countryside. This long physical journey is central to the picaresque style. From the moment he leaves London with little money or prospects, the road becomes the stage for his adventures. At every stop, from inns to villages, Fielding populates the journey with characters who reveal different facets of society. Next, episodic adventures. Much like traditional picaresque tales, Joseph Andrews is built around a sequence of episodes, not a singular linear plot. Examples include Joseph getting beaten up by robbers and being left naked and helpless, the coach passerbys who pretend morality but refuse to help the man. Another example is the encounters with a vain surgeon and the incompetent clergymen at inns who do not help the people in need. There are also humorous interludes with squires, poets, and players throughout the story. Henry Fielding uses these episodes not just for comic effect, but to satirize hypocrisy, vanity, selfishness, and a lack of Christian charity in his society. Third element is the parody and the picaresque intertwined elements. Where's the parody of picaresque? In the early part of the novel, Fielding mocks the moralizing tone of Pamela, But once Joseph sets out on his own journey, the narrative becomes truly picaresque, less about love and more about society. The acts of satire, irony, and social exposure take center stage. In the mode of Don Quixote, and also French picaresque works like Gil Blas, both known influences on Fielding. Parson Adams, a main character in the story, who is Joseph's companion, stands out as a comic Quixotean figure. He is innocent, outspoken, and often misunderstood, much like the knight in Don Quixote. Fourth element is the satire, the irony, and the social criticism in this work. Fielding's true purpose goes beyond adventure. He does not use Joseph Andrews just for satire, he uses it to hold a mirror to his society. He points out the irony, the hypocrisy of Lady Booby and Mrs. Slipslop, who pretend respectability but pursue their desires. The passengers who claim they are Christian and they have Christian values, yet they ignore a man in need. The self important clergymen care more for their possessions than their duties. This irony, not cruel or cynical, but constructive and humorous, is what makes Fielding different from other writers. He wasn't just mocking people, he was urging readers to reflect on morality and true virtue. Exposure through a man in need. Fielding is basically using the metaphor of Joseph Andrews in trouble to reveal the inner self. When Joseph is stripped of his clothes and all his belongings after being beaten and robbed, the moment exposes not his shame but society's lack of charity and a consciousness. No one is willing to actually help the man. Where does this novel now differ from a classic picaresque novel? While Joseph Andrews borrows many picaresque traits, it is not a traditional rogue tale per se. Joseph is morally upright, not a clever trickster. He's not a villain. Fielding adds a clear moral philosophy, not just satire in his work. The narrative moves towards resolution and social unity, whereas picaresque novels often end ambiguously. In this way, Fielding transforms the picaresque into something new, a comic epic in prose with both laughter and moral insight. This phrase, comic epic in prose, is going to be important because we are going to analyze it in the next lectures. Now, let's look at some examples from the book Joseph Andrews to strengthen our topic. I will briefly explain each example as well. So, first example is from the preface of the book. The only source of the true ridiculous, as it appears to me, is affectation. Affectation means to pretend. So, the explanation of this concept is Fielding clearly defines the target of his satire. In a picaresque fashion, the novel exposes characters who pretend to possess virtue, rank, or refinement. They do not truly have these three things. Much of the social comedy arises from this affectation, this pretension of the people. Second example is again from the preface, a comic epic poem in prose. Fielding describes his novel using this famous phrase, epic suggests wide social scope. Comic signals satire, and in prose grounds the narrative in realism. The broad journey, structure, and variety of characters resemble the picaresque model. The beginning of the journey. At the beginning of the journey, Joseph says, no sooner as he arrived at the inn, that he is inquired by the stagecoach. Since he is poor, this marks the practical beginning of Joseph's movement from London towards the countryside. People judge him based on his appearance. The stagecoach becomes the vehicle that initiates the episodic road narrative. The classic picaresque device where travel structures the story. As soon as he travels, his picaresque journey starts. The road is a narrative space in the story. The traveler now proceeds on his journey. This simple transition phrasing appears repeatedly in different forms throughout the novel. Such narrative shifts signals the episodic structure. Like a drama, each episode has a little bit of movement and it is interrelated. Each movement along the road leads to a new social encounter rather than building towards one tightly unified plot, and all those encounters are interlinked. After the robbery, the characters had not proceeded far on their way before they met with an adventure which deserved to be particularly related again. So, one adventure leads to another. One is not finished and another starts. This line clearly reflects the episodic nature of the novel. Fielding openly announces an adventure, emphasizing that the narrative unfolds through separate incidents, encounters during travels, which is a hallmark of picaresque fiction. Everything is interrelated. Throughout the journey, the characters also spend a considerable amount of time at the inn. And as soon as they arrive at the inn, they found that the host is greatly confused. The inn functions as a central episodic space in the novel. Each inn introduces new minor characters, comic misunderstanding, and social satire. The repetition of arrival incident departure reinforces the loose adventure based structure typical of a picaresque. Another example of picaresque is when Parson Adams joins the road narrative with Joseph. Mr. Adam and Joseph set out together. This moment formalizes the companionship dynamic. Like many picaresque narratives, for example, the knight and the squire model from Don Quixote, the shared journey allows for dialogue, moral contrast, and repeated social encounters. The movement itself drives the narrative progression forward. So, to conclude, Joseph Andrews follows many conventions of the picaresque novel: travel, episodic adventures, and social satire. It also expands the genre, infusing deeper moral reflection and character complexity. Fielding uses moral and irony not just to entertain, but to critique the hypocrisy of his society. Thus, the novel stands both as a picaresque adventure and a moral comedy, bridging older narrative traditions with the evolving English novel. That is all for today's lecture. I hope you found it fruitful and learned something. Till next time, Allah Hafiz, and see you guys soon.